Welcome to the Western America Railroad Museum and to a new series that we'd like to start here called Railroading in Their Words. Well, that's just the name I kind of came up with just on a whim. We'll see if the name sticks. So, this series is going to be sort of just casual, conversational interviews, I guess you could say, of various people from railroading past, former railroad employees, and their stories, their experiences of their career. And our first guest today is a Santa Fe engineer who had over 40 years of experience working between Barstow and Needles. So let's go ahead and go on over to that. So, how about we go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Ed Clapp. I'm an ex-Santa Fe employee. I worked for Santa Fe as a locomotive engineer for 46 years.
Good. So when did you start with the railroad? What year?
My first year with the railroad was 1951. It came and went in and out several times, but it started in 1951.
Okay. Now, when you started, what did you start doing? What was your job?
I started, well, my first job in 1951 was in Needles, down at what they call the ice house, for the ice, these produce cars that would come in from Bakersfield. They'd pull in over there at Needles, and I worked at this ice house for 90 days, ice in these box cars and ice. They had what they call ice house. It was a huge building. You would work on the inside the building when there's no trains there. But the train would come in and you'd go outside in the heat and ice in these bunkers for these produce trains. Each train would have I don't know how many, but a whole bunch, probably from 50 to 75 cars. Then that was the beginning in 1951. And after 51, then I went back to Oklahoma and finished high school. I was back there. I finished high school. Then I ended up back in Needles again. This is 1957.
Okay.
I came back to Needles and hired out as a fireman for the Santa Fe, and I worked and of course I'd get cut off like you always do at the early in the year.
Yeah.
But anyway, I worked for there, started in '57, and then went back to Oklahoma again. Like I say, I was laid off. The railroad did that every year. Right about the first of the year, you'd always get cut off. Okay, and then they would call you back when they need you again. They'd call you, and you'd come back. And I ended up, what year was it? I don't know what year it was, but anyway, I ended up as a locomotive fireman, and I worked out here in the freight yard here in Barstow for years, and I'd work in and out of Needles and Barstow, but you'd always get cut off. But then I got enough seniority where I didn't get cut off anymore. I worked a year round. Then in 1960, I'm working here in the yard, Barstow Yards, and I got drafted into the Army. I was in the Army for 2 years, but when I got cut off, got drafted into the Army, they held my position, and when I got out of the Army in 1962, I came back to the railroad.
Okay.
Picked up where I left off and went right back working here in the yard. In the meantime, in 1961, while I was in the Army, I was married, and she came home. She came back with me when I got out of the Army, and we ended up back here in Barstow. And I worked here in the yard and in Needles, like I say, well, all my life. All my career was right here in Barstow, and I did something that I'm sure not too many people have done. I kept a complete record of my railroad career from the first day I worked to the last trip I made. I had a record of every day I worked.
Wow.
That for 46 years of railroading I have at home in my closet. A complete record of my railroad.
How many runs do you think you made, if you had an estimate?
Oh, I don't know. Sometimes you'd make one a day. Sometimes you'd make two. I don't know that. But you, the number of runs, I have no idea how many runs. Yeah, see, I went to Needles on the main line, somewhere in the 80s, and I worked over. And then on the main line, you work just about every day. But here in the Barstow yard, I don't know how many days I worked here in the yard as a engineer on yard engines here in the yard. The Harvey House here that we're sitting in right now, I lived there when I first went to work here. I was unmarried, and I've stayed here in this Harvey House. They had a cafeteria in there, and upstairs you slept up there. You were I think it was $3 a night to charge to sleep here in the Harvey House. But but half of this building has been torn down over the years.
Yeah.
They west of here, the Santa Fe medical offices were on the west end here, and some more living area.
Was Barstow to Needles the only run you did pretty much
Yes,
after the yard?
Yes, but I always worked between here in Barstow and Needles. I could have worked into Bakersfield if I'd have wanted to. Now, in Needles, I could have worked and gone east out of Needles to Sligman, Arizona, but I didn't like that into the railroad, and most of my time has been spent here in Barstow. The diesel shop over here, I spent many hours over around the diesel shop. When it was going full bore, I worked over there a lot.
Was that also why you were still an engineer?
Yeah, well, see, if you hire out an engine service, like I did, you stay in an engine service. You don't go into as a conductor or anybody else. You're an engine service. That's where I stayed from. Well, we'll just say from 1951 till I retired in 2022. But anyway, the total time from start to finish, now this ice house time applied toward my retirement time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was only for, like I say, one summer. For 46, I had in total 46 years in engine service.
Obviously, you went through the merger with the Burlington.
Yes, I did.
How did you feel about that? Did it affect you?
That wasn't a merger. That was a takeover. Burlington Northern took over Santa Fe. I mean, that's what the old heads think, and I'm one of them. But when they went together, to me, it was Burlington Northern took over Santa Fe. I didn't agree with it, and but that's what they did. I guess that's a weird one, but I never ever had a close call on anything. I never had a wreck. I never on a train. I never had any calls or getting run into by other trains. I watched what I was doing. I when I went to work, I went to work,
Yeah.
and I paid attention to what I was doing. When I first started, well, you're saying, or you were saying in this case, 57, I think 57, they had cabooses. And okay, some of those cabooses would have from 2 to 3 brakemen on there. And but there would be one brakeman on the head end and on the engine with the engineer. There'd be an engineer and a brakeman on the head end. But then they did away with the cabooses. I don't know what year it was, but they abolished the cabooses. Well, the people of California voted me as a fireman out of a job. They said that a fireman was not needed on a freight train. And Proposition 17, I think it was, on the ballot, they voted me out of a job. And when they voted me out of a job, anyone with 10 years service or less was cut off. You're done with. Well, after the vote was taken this particular year, I was abolished. They cut me off, but then rehired me. Mm-hmm. I was over at the diesel shop, and they had offices over there. I went in there, and I was only out of service for 2 weeks. I got lucky. In fact, I ran around a whole lot of guys that were ahead of me in engine service. I came seniority wise. I come back ahead of them as again in train service. I mean engine service.
What did you like the most about doing like the Barstow to Needles run?
Well, it was a hard run. Here, it's 165 miles train wise between here and Needles. And when I first went to work, there was no air conditioning. It was hot in the summertime. It was blazing hot, and that was hard. And night and day, it was hot. It wasn't a real pleasant job because you had to sit there in that cabin with the glass in that locomotive on the windows was a ½ inch thick, and that created a lot of heat. And I've spent many a day out there between here and Needles, and between Needles and here, up there in that cab of that engine, hot, just blazing hot.
Did you have a preference of what kind of locomotive you were running?
No, not really. They were basically the same. They were all just about alike as far as running is concerned. You ran one just about like you did the other, but like the other, they were about the same.
Did you want to retire, or was it just your time?
I was ready. See, I retired when I was 65, and oh yes, and I got to thinking about it, and I realized that after all these many years that I had worked, I was ready to retire. You know, I was running between here, Barstow, and Needles. That was my run, and I was ready to go when I went. The morning I went in there on my last trip, I realized that was it. I went to work about a half a block from where I retired from, over there in Needles.
So you retired in Needles, pretty much.
Yeah. See, I started in Needles, and I retired in Needles.
Would you say it was a good job overall?
Oh yes, I loved it. Yeah, it was a good job. You did the same thing every day, just about, but never know you got to know the men, and you got to love the men.
Yeah.
You love to work with them, and oh yeah, it was a good job.
Was the Barstow to Needles, was that a usually a scheduled run?
No, a freight train has no schedule.
Yeah.
A freight train, just when they get that freight train ready to go, it's sent out there, just like right up here in this yard today. When those trains get ready to go, they have a crew call and a train will leave, but there's no time. You might, that's one of the drawbacks, I guess, if there be one, was your regular hours of going to and from work. You went to work at all hours of the night and day.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. It might be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It might be 3:30 in the morning. You went to work at all hours.
Yeah. And you didn't mind that?
I'm sorry.
You didn't mind doing that?
No, you just do it. You know what to expect, and you just do it because you know what to expect and what you're going to do, and you just do it.
Got in trouble for
yeah,
it?
I've known men that have had to run into each other, but I've never known anyone to get killed or anything like that. Uh, but I've seen several times along the right of way run across a dead man down by the track. I've run across dead people along the railroad, but I've never hit anyone. I never even come close of hitting anyone at any time. Oh, are you talking about that finger there?
Yeah.
Well, see, I was going to work one day, and always when I went to work, I checked my engine of my power to make sure it was running okay and everything. And I had 4 units this particular day, and I went out, put my grip on the engine, so then I started back through the engines, checking my power. And when I went through the second door of the first unit, I wasn't paying what I was doing. I closed the door, and the end of that finger was in the door, and it mashed the end of the finger off. But then of course, I did my work that day.
Yeah.
And I think I was out of service for, I think 3 weeks or something like that. Then I went back to work.
Yeah. Had to have hurt.
It did hurt. Oh yeah. But see, when I did it, when I had my gloves on, and I thought, I think I hurt my hand. So I pulled my glove off and looked at my finger, and there the end of the bone was sticking out.
So you got hurt once.
If you call that hurt, yes, that's on one, yeah.
Well, good thing it wasn't anything worse than that.
Yeah.
After they moved the shops down to the new yard, did you spend much time at the new shops or no?
No. See, they built the new one out here, and when they did that, the old part, they closed it completely down. Then eventually, over I don't know how long it took them, another year or two or something like that, they tore the shop down. Mm-hmm. And today you can't tell there's anything over there.
Yeah.
You can't tell it. But I didn't spend too many days on a yard engine in the new yard. All my time was spent right here in the old yard, right here in front of us.
It's pretty popular for people to go out and like take pictures of trains and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see a lot of them back in the day or no?
No, I didn't. I didn't see many. You'd see one occasionally out here at Daggett or maybe in Newberry, where the track and rail highway came up fairly close together. You'd see somebody, but you didn't see that many, or at least I did. I didn't see that many. Like I said earlier, I lived here in this Harvey house when I first went to work.
Yeah.
In the 50s, I lived up here occasionally, and right out in front out here, you can't see it, was the yard office where the train master, the officials stayed here in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
But right today, there's nothing there. But this Harvey house brings back memories because they had a cafeteria in it before your passenger trains they would stop here and they'd get off and eat before they went on. But anyway, in this cafeteria, the counter was solid marble, white marble, great big semicircle of white marble, and then out in the lobby and wherever there was all the lights was brass, brass and copper. Now then, quote, where are those today? Wouldn't they be something to see and have today?
Yeah.
But I don't know who got them, or because I guess I was in the Army. I don't know where it was. That marble countertop, that was one of a kind.
Yeah.
As an agency, when you hire out, you really the day you hire out, you start working yourself toward an engineer. You start taking tests.
Yeah.
And I took several tests down through the years to become an engineer. And I ended up right here, right there on the end there. It's where I took my engineer's promotion. And then 1 year I had to go back to Kansas City and to a federal deal. But that in its way, I think, led to my retirement, because I didn't like going to Kansas City and flying back there and flying back, and I didn't like that, and I think that had a lot to do with my eventual retirement. See, and when they first started out, the freight engines, they were blue and yellow. You've got pictures of them here. They were blue and yellow.
Yeah.
And the passenger trains engines were red.
Yeah.
You've got those too. But I got here, just a few years ahead or behind the steam engines. I never worked the steam engine. The diesels stepped in, and they left when I did. When I showed up, they left.
Yeah.
Because I considered as a good engineer, and all the conductors, if they could work with me, they would swap over and work with me if they could. Every day that they called me to work, I went. See, right in here somewhere, at one time, the roadmaster's office was right in here somewhere, and I needed some ties. And down here, about where there's what they call that tower right off down here. Anyway, they were taking some ties out. They had over just the other side of the bridge right here. They had several hundred ties that they were going to get rid of, and so I came down to the roadmaster. I knew him. I told him, I said, I need 15 ties. Well, he said, I tell you what. He wrote me out a purchase order. He said, you take his purchase order, and you haul ties all day, but keep his purchase order with you at all times. If anyone shows up, just pop this purchase order on them. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And so over there, just to the other side of what would be the bridge now, buried right there, there's several hundred ties right this very day buried there. They tore the bridge down, which I think that was a mistake, but they did, and they built what they got out there now. But well, so one morning we were called to work out here in the yard right out here.
Yeah.
We sat there for 2 or 3 hours. They wouldn't turn us loose to leave. And at the time, the track out here by what is now Foster's Donuts. Okay, we went down that track leaving. I said, we got down there, and I asked this conductor, I said, you want some donuts? And I just stopped the train. He said, yeah. So we only had to walk from the track across the highway to get our donuts. And we stopped the train and went and got donuts, but never didn't tell nobody. No, there's no, like I say, there's just a a straightforward job to me. At the beginning, you didn't carry anything, but toward the last, when I retired, you had to carry a card, like a driver's license, I'll say.
Yeah.
You had to carry that with you. At the beginning, you were just there. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, if that's it, I guess we'll leave.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and sharing with us.
The first one was back years and years ago, back when Santa Fe still had passenger trains. Okay, this one incident, I was on a passenger train, number 18, the El Capitan was the name of the train. Okay, we're about 50 miles out of town out here, the other side of Newberry. At the time, I'm running the train engineer sitting over there watching, and I'm running the train. And the sun was just coming up, just barely coming up. We were late, always late. But anyway, we were late, and we were making our normal 90 miles an hour. Anyway, we looked off down ahead of us, and we saw something on the track. Oh, quite a ways down, probably a quarter of a mile. And we didn't know if it was paper or a piece of rag or somebody. So we got closer and closer, and we finally got to the point where we could see it was a man. He was squatting down by the rail, right up real close to the rail. I don't know if he was collecting nails or what he was doing, but anyway, he just squatted down there, and I'm blowing the whistle, and we get fairly close, and he went out of sight. Down under the nose of the engine. We went on by. This engineer says, "Well, did we get him?" I said, "No," because I looked in the rearview mirror, and he was walking out to the side of the train. He'd gotten out from under the train some way. But we keep on going, naturally, we're still making normal speed. Anyway, I'm sitting there, and I look over at and I had the whistle horn in my hand. I was blowing the whistle so hard, pulling on it so hard, I pulled the handle off. And I told the engineer, I said, "Here, I've got this whistle cord here, or whistle handle," and I gave it to him. In some way, he stuck it back on the control stand, and we come on to town. But I thought I'd hit him, because he went out of sight down on the nose of the engine. He was probably 50 feet away from the train when I looked back and saw him walking out to the side of the train. Then there's another one. This was before this. No, it was after this. I was on a freight train. I was the engineer on a freight train, and we were about 50 miles out of here, out around just the other side of Ludlow. And we'd come over a hill. Going down there, we were making 45 miles an hour. That's the speed limit of this particular curve. And we go around the curve, and I'm standing up looking back at the train that was going around this curve. And I felt the engine give a little jiggle to the side. And I'm looking back, and about that time I'm looking back, and I see the trains leaving the track. The cars were leaving the track. Of course, when you do that, you go into emergency. The train went to emergency, and we stopped. We got 14 cars on the ground on this derailment, and we sat there for a long time. And of course, some of the officials came out and looked things over. We hadn't heard anybody or anything. At the time, during the time we had cabooses. I had a caboose when we were running on a train. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the conductor and brakeman back on this caboose, they didn't get hurt. And me and the brakeman and I had a fireman that particular trip. No one got hurt. Mm-hmm. But then we came on to town. But what had happened, this was an extremely hot day. It was in August. Mm-hmm. And it was so hot, the rail had kinked, and the train won't go over a kink in the rail. I felt the engine give a kink, and as I look back, I'm seeing the cars back in the train leaving the track because they'd gone over this kink and couldn't make it. But we came on to town. We brought what cars we had left in our train. We brought them on to town. And then the next day, I guess they must have had some good section crews at the time. They got the rail back straight enough to go back east. And the next day, I was called to go back to Needles. But I made it, the track was okay, or we went over slow naturally, and everything was okay for me to leave to go back. But that was the only wreck, as you want to call it, that I ever had.
Oh, that's good. Wasn't your fault.
No, it wasn't my fault. It's kink in the rail.
Yeah.
But see, years after that, they started welding rails together, making long rails. They believe we got them today. Mm-hmm. And the rails were about a half mile long, but they're welded together.
Yeah.
And they don't have this I don't know how long a rail is, 40 or 50 feet, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, they don't have those little short rails anymore. They've got long rails.